Tell you why I ride in this. So, a little over 2 years ago, I was told I was moving to Bentonville, Arkansas by my previous boss. I worked for this guy for almost 6 years, and I was told I was moving to Bentonville, Arkansas to run his new restaurant. I was terrified. I didn't know anything about Arkansas. I'd never been in Arkansas in my life, but I did it anyway. And so we were running the restaurant, opened the restaurant up. I worked 6 a.m. to about 11 p.m. for about 2 months straight with 0 days off. And then suddenly, about 8 months later, all of a sudden, I was let go with no explanation other than we're going a different direction. Business wasn't what they expected it to be. And I'm to this day, that's the only explanation I was ever given. And anybody that knows me longer than 4 or 5 years ago, I struggled with alcoholism severely. When I wanted to forget about something or I didn't want to think about something, I would simply grab a bottle of vodka and I would drink the entire bottle and go to sleep at night. Many times I would wake up and I would want more, so I'd get in my car and drive to the store because in Missouri, you were allowed to buy, I think, up until 2 o'clock in the morning. And so, needless to say, I got in trouble several times for DWIs. And when I was let go suddenly from this job with no explanation by someone who I considered my friend, I was baffled. I was lost. I was terrified. And so I had this friend that I'd interacted with for probably I'd say about 8 years, but had never actually met in person. And lo and behold, this person lived in Bentonville, Arkansas. Um, Soon this person became my best friend, but this person uh, nagged me over and over and over again to go on a bike ride with him. He loves riding bikes. And when I was let go, I had an option. I had an option to either grab that bottle of vodka and drink myself to sleep and forget about it, or go on a bike ride with my now best friend, Josh Rinkenbaugh. And I thought about it and I really, really wanted to drink. And so, but I decided not to. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to jump on a bike with this guy and see what it's all about. And from that point on, I fell in love with cycling. Um, I could have drank myself to sleep. I could have forgot about it. But the problem was, is that the next day, that problem was still going to be there. I still had to find another job. Um, and so instead, I stayed coherent. I stayed sober, and because of riding a bike with Josh, it was a probably 15-year-old, 10 or 15-year-old Walmart bike, mongoose that weighed about 60 pounds. But that didn't matter because it was so freeing to me to get on a bike and be able to talk to somebody and have that person listen to me, but also I could think about things instead of just forgetting about them. And so, fast forward, I then bought a mountain bike and I made Josh buy a mountain bike too. Josh hated mountain biking, come to find out. The first ride we ever did, he got hurt. He crashed really bad. And so he hated mountain biking. So I got obsessed with it and mountain biked and mountain biked and mountain biked. And then Josh bought a road bike. And I thought, well, I don't want to be a roadie. And so I didn't buy a road bike. And then he was doing everything, and I wanted to hang out with Josh, and he was going on all these rides. And then he told me that he's training for this thing. I didn't know exactly what it was. And so the shop that I bought my mountain bike at had this contest for Christmas a couple years ago, and I had entered it, and I had won a inexpensive hybrid bike. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to use that and buy a road bike, use that money, that value, and buy a road bike. And so I did. And so I went on a couple of these training rides that I then found out was for the Aids Lifecycle with Josh and the team that he was on, the local Arkansas team. At that time, it was Team Walmart. I thought, this is really cool. So they kept bugging me, you should join, you should join, you should do this. And finally I said, screw it, I'm going to do it. And so I signed up for it. I had no, I had done no investigation, no research on what this was. I said, okay, cool. I don't think I even knew that how many miles it was. So I signed up for it, and that's when I started doing the research, and I was terrified. I was like, holy shit, I'm going to ride my bike for 545 miles from San Francisco to Los Angeles. So basically, The biggest reason I do AIDS Life Cycle is because cycling saved my life. And if I hadn't jumped on a bike with Josh a couple years ago, I could potentially be dead. I could have killed somebody else, or I could be in jail. And so now I choose to use cycling to save other people's lives. Um, and so once I started training for this, I was still pretty scared. I knew that I'm physically fit. Anybody that knows me knows how adamant I am about my fitness, but I had never ridden my bike that far, and so we started going on longer and longer and longer training rides. Then I started really looking up what AIDS Life Cycle was, watching videos, what it means to everybody, why it's even there, um, and that sealed it for me. The I didn't know that I was going to want to do this every year. Last year being my first ride because I didn't know what it was going to be like. But again, like I said, the biggest reason I ride my bike in AIDS Life Cycle and why I do this is because cycling saved my life. So I'd like to use it to save other people's lives. But there are several other reasons. One of the biggest reasons is that while HIV and AIDS has the medicine, the treatment, and everything has become better since the beginning of the epidemic, it's still here. And it's a huge deal. Since the beginning of the epidemic, over 35 million people have died from AIDS related causes. The There are 36 point almost 37 million people who are currently living with HIV and AIDS. Out of that number, almost 2 million of those people are children. And by children, that means less than 15 years old. So I know when I was less than 15 years old, I didn't want to think about anything but hanging out with my friends and who had the cutest girlfriend or boyfriend or who had the best clothes or anything like that. I can imagine being somebody that's 15 years old and having to worry about their friends finding out that they are HIV positive. Um, the stigma that is in the world today is still very much alive. I have friends that are HIV positive and they're terrified to tell people because they've been told that they're disgusting or they're not human or they should be put to death and stuff like that. Those are real things. Those are things that people have been told, and that's not true. In the recent years, there have been many advances. There's been hopefully in other countries they have possibly found what they think might be a cure. But again, that's many years away, and who knows if that'll ever come. Um, Out of the almost 37 million people, there are still about 25% of those people that don't have access to the treatment that they need, the medical services, the help, the counseling. And so that's one of the big things that AIDS Life Cycle provides for, is to help people get the medicines that they need. The medicine for HIV, which is an antiretroviral, basically what that does is it stops the virus from replicating and lowers the copies in your blood to now the tests are so sensitive to less than 20 counts per million blood cells. And so what that says is that makes them undetectable. But that medicine without insurance costs anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000 a month. I've seen those. I've seen those bills, and those are very real. Even with insurance, most insurances still have $100 copay, and so a lot of people they can't afford that. So that's another thing that AIDS Life Cycle provides for, is helping people get the medicines that they need, to get the help that they need, to get the services that they need, counseling. So that's another one. The other one is for education, educating people. There's a huge lack of education in the country on HIV. People don't know anything about it. There's still so many people that have no idea what it is and how you can't get it from a toilet seat. You can't get it from a kiss, especially in rural areas such as Arkansas or where I came from in Webb City, Missouri. People just don't know about it. They don't want to talk about it. They're afraid of it. So that's another reason that I ride in the AIDS Life Cycle, is to bring awareness and to help with education, to fight the stigma, to help people get the services that they need, to fund research, to hopefully one day make HIV and AIDS a thing of the past. San Francisco is striving to be the first city to ever have a year with zero new infections. If that happens, that shows all the other cities in the world that, hey, this is possible. So that's a reason why I write an AIDS life cycle. There's a few other reasons. One of the big reasons, too, was last year it was amazing how everybody, 3,000 cyclists, nearly 3,000 cyclists, and I think almost as many staff members on Aids Lifecycle came together as one giant group for one purpose. I'd never seen anything like that. How that many people moved from city to city almost effortlessly because of one cause, because of what we are doing, and coming together. The what they call the love bubble is real. The camaraderie was amazing. Um, But there's some other reasons, two big ones from last year's ride that for the reason that I ride. One of them is to remember the people that we've lost. Um, Stephanie is a lady who in Santa Cruz lost her brother at the beginning of the epidemic. By the time that she found or that he found out that he was HIV positive, it was too late, and basically they had to keep him comfortable. Now every year she stands on the side of the road in Santa Cruz with a picture of her brother, remembering and thanking us. And I'm sorry for the emotional, but it just means so much that I can be a small part of that to help her remember her brother. She stands there for 6+ hours during AIDS Life Cycle every single year. Another one is, and I can't remember the city that we were riding through, but there was a little boy with a sign that said, "Thank you for making my dad's life matter." That blew me away. And that's why we do it, because we let people know that they aren't forgotten about, to help them. And the amount of people that we saw as we rode through each city that appreciated us, that welcomed us, was absolutely amazing. So those are the reasons that I ride in the AIDS life cycle. I train very, very hard all year for this, whether it's on my mountain bike or my road bike or I'm in the gym. This year, unfortunately, training has been rather difficult because in Arkansas, Mother Nature hasn't really liked us, and it's either been raining or it's been insanely cold or it's just been awful weather. So instead, I've been in the gym a lot. You guys have seen me posting a lot of stuff on Facebook. Um, so I hope that this explains why I do the AIDS life cycle. The very beginning reason why I did it was because it saved my life. Cycling saved my life. So I'm using it to save other people's lives and to help other people's lives, to live better lives, to raise awareness, to fight the stigma, to help with education, to help people get the services that they need and the medication that they need, because it's extremely expensive. But for people like Stephanie, who lost her brother, to remember the millions that we have lost, to for that little boy that wants to know that his dad's life matters. Um, Another bad statistic is I believe it was around 25% of the people that are infected also don't know that they're infected. A lot of that has to do with the fact that they're afraid. And we need to let people know that they don't need to be afraid. HIV and AIDS is no longer a life sentence. You can live a long, healthy life with advances in medicine and care. So I hope that this explains a little bit. I know it's a little bit long. I hope it doesn't bore you, but I hope this explains why I'm writing an AIDS life cycle for the second year, and I plan to do it every year. Now, if you want to donate, I'd really appreciate helping me get to the required goal of AIDS Life Cycle. We're each required to raise $3,000 to be allowed to ride. My link is on my Facebook, it's on my Instagram, but it is www.toFightHIV.org/Chris F. Strobel. I would greatly appreciate any donations. All dollar amounts matter, to get me to that goal, so I can ride once again this year as well as next year. So hopefully I see your name on that fundraising honor roll. Also, my local team in Arkansas, we have come up with a custom jersey. So if you donate by the end of this coming Sunday, the 28th, $50 or more, I will put your name on our Day 5 jersey, which is what's called Red Dress Day. Basically, that is, they ask every cyclist to wear red. And when you're coming through the hills of California, it looks like a red ribbon, the AIDS ribbon. So hopefully I can get your donations. And if you donate $50 or more, I'll put your name on that jersey and you can be on the journey with me.